Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. This is City Talk. Money laundering, dirty pols, crooked lobbyists, racketeering, federal crime task forces, congressional hearings, and campaign cash, greed and hypocrisy, and more. Real politics, American style. Joining me to look at the underbelly of American politics and government is Jack Newfield, muckraker supreme, currently a columnist for the New York Sun and frequent contributor to The Nation. His new book is American Monsters, a follow-up to his very readable American Rebels. Jack, it's always a pleasure.
Same here.
Okay, let's go right to the Sun. September 8th, Wednesday. U.S. investigating GOP lobbyists with ties to Indian-run casinos. Tell me the story. What's the story?
The story is there are two super lobbyists in Washington. One is a guy named Jack Abramoff, who's been one of the biggest lobbyists in Washington for 20 years, and his more junior partner, Michael Scanlan, who had been Tom DeLay's press secretary. They represented 11 Indian tribes and fleeced them to death. They were paid more than $45 million by 11 tribes over 2.5 years. And now they're under investigation by the FBI and the IRS because they didn't perform most of their promised services for the tribes. They coerced the tribes into shifting their campaign contributions from the Democrats to the Republicans. I've traced $1.5 million these 11 tribes contributed to Republican candidates, PACs, and committees, including $500,000 to the Republican Governors Association and $100,000 to Tom DeLay's PACs. So this is, and they don't really do much. The tribes pay them out of federal funds designated for health, education, welfare, and alcohol rehab.
So this is a made-for HBO movie, or maybe it's even a Hollywood feature film.
It could be, because it's the final cheating of the Native Americans. After the Trail of Tears and the extermination and Holocaust of the Cherokee and Comanche, and after all that was done to Native Americans, now we come to two Washington lobbyists with ties to Tom DeLay and the White House, shaking them down one last time when they finally get casinos.
Okay. There's the third character here that you didn't mention, and that's Ralph Reed, who looks like a particular target of yours. Ralph Reed, the former director of the Christian Coalition, now who's running the Southeast U.S. Bush-Cheney campaign. Right. He's involved in this story. Just give us a little flavor of his activities.
At this point, I don't think anything Ralph Reed has done is criminal. It's just bogus piety. Ralph Reed has been paid $4 million to help tribes with casinos stop smaller tribes with smaller casinos from competing with them. When he was founder and chairman of the Christian Coalition, he said gambling is a cancer on American politics. Now he is getting rich off this cancer.
So another case of hypocrisy. I mean, yes, it's a standard operating procedure.
But Reed has lied about this for months. In July, I did an article for The Nation saying he's getting paid money laundered through Michael Scanlan's PR firm into Ralph Reed's pocket. He called me a liar. He said it's not true. It's left-wing propaganda. Then, at the end of August, after he got a subpoena from the grand jury for his banking records and emails, he admitted to the Montgomery Advertiser that he had collected $4 million laundered from Indian tribes with casinos. And now he's in a jackpot, and there's a tremendous backstage fight going on whether a Senate hearing on September 29th will compel his testimony with a subpoena.
Okay. Now, given this very complicated story, what I want to do is sort of break it out into pieces so I fully understand it as well. What you've got here is a classic case of insider manipulation of the system, sort of a systemic corruption, if you will. But before we start, how did you get this story? I mean, as a journalist, I want to understand that as well.
Tipped to it by some staff investigators for the Senate Indian Affairs Committee back in June. Then I made contact with some sources in the FBI, and by that point had been a joint task force that was originally in Louisiana, that moved up to Washington, and included the Maine Justice Department, the FBI, the IRS, and the National Indian Gaming Commission. And they have been investigating Abramoff and Scanlan all year, because the amount of money they've been getting is unheard of in Indian gaming lobbying before. In the late 90s, when there was real politics being played under Bill Clinton with gambling casino compacts and licenses, lobbyists were getting $15,000 a month. Abramoff and Scanlan are getting $150,000 a month. The amount of the fees, McCain told me, is what first got his attention, that they're so pornographic. So
you've been in touch with McCain directly and had conversations with him about this?
Yes, I interviewed him once, and he said it was the exorbitant, exploitive nature of the lobbying fees being paid that first got his attention and his subcommittee's attention, and then he hired extra investigators to start digging into this last March.
Why is this story a big deal? Why is it significant? And obviously it will unfold before us. What do you see the significance now, and just project it out? What could happen here?
That's a good question. One, this is a way to evade the intent of the McCain-Feingold campaign finance
But they
reform
gave
law.
the Indians explicit exemption from this.
And they are using that exemption to give millions of dollars to Republican politicians, which it looks, based on my interviews with dissident members of the Coshada and Choctaw and Agua Caliente tribes, Abramoff and Scanlan are coercing the faction that is loyal to them to divert tons of money into only Republican campaigns.
And so this is unusual, because usually this type of systemic corruption is bipartisan, that the permanent government, the permanent lobbyists, no matter who they are, make money.
Well, Indian gambling is unique because the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which is located in the Interior Department, controls everything. This is like state capitalism. The Interior Department can decide if you're a tribe or if you're not a tribe. There are about 200 contested cases going on right now, whether a tribe is really Native Americans.
Right.
There's been so much intermarriage over 300 years that some tribes are not really Indian, or someone who married into the tribe gets himself elected the chairman and then tries to get a casino license. And only the Bureau of Indian Affairs can decide, do you get a license? Are you a tribe? Who the leader of the tribe is, because all these tribes have contested elections and permanent factions. And
So it's
Bureau of
not
Indian
broken arrow of my youth.
No.
Okay.
This is bury my heart on K Street.
Okay, good. Title of the movie. Come on, we've got it. I want a piece of this, but at least stimulating this. What can we expect to come out of the investigations, whether the racketeering investigation by the Justice Department or the Senate?
Well, the criminal investigation, I think, will reach the point of indictments before the year is over.
Before the election?
That I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I'm told before the year is over.
Okay.
I think it would make a lot of sense to an informed electorate in a democracy to have these indictments before November 2nd, but it's hard to time it.
Also,
or
it
may look too political to do it before the election.
What about McCain, which is political in its essence? Talk about that. What could possibly happen that makes this story worth following?
On September 29th, the Senate Indian Affairs Committee has already announced they're having a public hearing, and they've subpoenaed the two main exploiters of the Native Americans, Jack Abramoff and Michael Scanlan, to testify. Dissident members of many tribes have asked to testify because they say they were kept in the dark, that what they call sacred funds intended for education were diverted to these two lobbyists, and they're going to make a very powerful emotional case as the victims here. Because there was an audit done of the Coushatta tribe of Louisiana, which has 800 members and a casino in Kinder, Louisiana, that generates $30 million in revenue every month. And this is
To be an Indian.
like a bank.
Nice.
But
it's an ATM machine where you don't have to pay the bill
But
at the
an
end.
audit of this tribe shows that it's losing money, that money is missing, that each tribal member is getting a smaller allocation from the tribe, and the rank and file members tell me, and I presume have told McCain, that 3 or 4 leaders of the tribe are controlling everything, that they hired Abramoff and Scanlan. Scanlan, who has a PR company, was paid $600,000 to spy on one faction of the tribe that's against gambling.
Well, okay, let's bring it back to the issue of McCain and the politics of this. McCain, there's some personal stuff going on here, particularly between McCain and Ralph Reed. I would think that McCain would like to strangle Ralph Reed because Ralph Reed helped destroy McCain in the South Carolina
in
primary.
2000, and Ralph Reed did destroy
Max Cleland
in Georgia.
Yep.
Max Cleland is a close friend of McCain's, closer than John Kerry is. And Cleland is a triple amputee from Vietnam in a wheelchair.
So,
and Ralph Reed, who was chairman of the Georgia Democratic Party in 2002, put commercials on the air attacking this triple amputee from Vietnam's patriotism and love of country, and elected someone else to defeat him.
so this could be a bit of
McCain-
payback.
Well, except McCain, I think, doesn't want anyone to think he has a petty motive here or a personal motive, and he's almost bending over backwards not to subpoena Reed, and has sent, I believe, back-channel messages to the 2 Democrats on the committee, Harry Reid of Nevada and Byron Dorgan of North Dakota, to say, if you want to subpoena Reed, I won't stop it, but it should come from you, because I don't want anyone to question my motives here. This is too big an issue, and McCain has had a career-long interest in Indian rights as a senator from Arizona, where there are many tribes and reservations, and a deep commitment to campaign finance reform, since he was somewhat tainted in the Keating 5 banking scandal. So he's clear on the underlying issues here of Indian rights and campaign finance reforms, and in real life, it's now up to Harry Reid and Byron Dorgan whether they're going to stand up and insist Ralph Reed testify. And this can only help John Kerry, because Ralph Reed is chairman of the Bush-Cheney campaign in the South, and he's known as anti-gambling, but now he's admitted to $4 million in his pocket from gambling tribes. It would give a stroke to evangelical voters to find out their leader, who's against gambling, is getting rich off gambling.
Forget about the evangelicals. It'll give Karl Rove and George Bush a stroke that McCain, in a sense, is sticking to him again a month before the election.
It would make Ralph Reed radioactive in American politics and within the Bush campaign. But the Democrats are so passive.
We'll get to
so stupid.
Please, don't start me yet.
I'm
Don't start me
telling
yet.
the truth.
I understand.
That they haven't yet voted a subpoena for Ralph Reed for September 29th, and if they don't, they are throwing the game.
Okay. Describe the money laundering operation that the $4 million got to Ralph Reed, because that was fascinating to me, how this actually plays out, how you wash the money.
Well, the Coushatta tribe
in Louisiana,
800 members, 300 million annual revenue. They give money to Michael Scanlan's company, Campaign Strategies, and they in Campaign Strategies in turn pays it to Ralph Reed. And so Reed can say, sort of truthfully, I didn't take money from Indian tribes. He took it from Mike Scanlan, who got it from Indian tribes.
And what activities did he perform for them as this subcontractor?
Well, as a subcontractor, he agitated and lobbied in Alabama and Texas to kill casinos by other tribes that would have taken business and profit away from the Coushatta's tribe in Kinder, Louisiana, because half that casino's business, which is in western Louisiana, comes from Texas and some from Alabama.
Now, how did he do this? What, does he go around to the various local Christian ministers and persuade them to go against the casinos?
And he does direct mailing, and he got to the Attorney General of Texas, who's now the senator from Texas, who rescinded the license for one tribe in Texas for a casino. And he got to the Bureau of Indian Affairs in Washington, which opposed a license. He even lobbied against a riverboat license on the Mississippi. There's a lot of riverboat gambling on the Mississippi River, and there were 15 licenses allowed, and there was one vacant, and somebody tried to fill it in 2002, and Ralph Reed made sure that it was not filled because it would have diverted business from the Indian tribe that was paying him. But all of this scandal is involved with money laundering, because Jack Abramoff, who was a huge figure on K Street, he was the lobbyist for Mobutu in Zaire. He was the lobbyist for the U.S. Protectorate, the Mariana Islands.
No, you have to explain the Mariana Islands case.
The Mariana Islands is a U.S. Protectorate, which is a sweatshop haven, where there are sweatshops where Asian women are paid $2 an hour to work on garments for 12-hour shifts. And the United States Senate passed a law repealing the exemption that would have compelled the Mariana Islands to pay the American minimum wage. And the Mariana Islands paid Jack Abramoff $7.9 million over 6 years to prevent the House from passing this Senate law, and he killed it in the Senate.
Now, who
killed it in the House.
Who is the individual who killed it in the House?
The individual who killed it in the House was Tom DeLay, Mike Scanlan's former employer.
So we've got this nefarious connection,
and
if
Tom
you will.
DeLay is as much, in the background here as Ralph Reed. His fingerprints are all over this.
Now, you say his fingerprints are all over it.
And he is the enabler of Scanlan and Abramoff.
Are you suggesting that there may be, he may be a target of this investigation?
No, I'm saying he's the enabler and the helper of Abramoff and Scanlan. He killed his very humane bill that would have raised the minimum wage.
But you don't think that the
He got $100,000 from these tribes and Abramoff. He's benefiting from this racketeering enterprise.
So you're saying he's corrupt but not indictable, perhaps?
I don't think he's
legally
I haven't
corrupt.
seen anything he's legally indictable for yet in this. All I believe is that Abramoff and Scanlan are indictable for money laundering, tax fraud, racketeering. And the story I started to tell you, that it's the first thing that really made my hair stand up in doing my early research, is that the Coushatta tribe of Louisiana gave $1 million to a little foundation that Jack Abramoff set up in Washington. And another tribe in Mississippi, the Choctaws, also gave $1 million. And in the same time frame, this little family foundation gave $2 million to start an Orthodox Hebrew school in Washington, run by Abramoff and his wife, Pam.
So we're talking about personal corruption as well as systemic corruption.
I think so.
Okay. In a companion piece to your piece last Wednesday, New York gaming firms lobbying hard by your colleague at The Sun,
Bill Hammond.
Bill Hammond, New York is a hotbed of activity. In fact, as you note in your piece, there have been already 2 major scandals surrounding the casino effort in New York. This is not only a Washington, Louisiana problem, but this is right here.
Absolutely. I mean, look, there's so much money to be made if you get a casino license that everybody wants a piece of the action. This is, in the last 8 years, it's become a national phenomenon, and Indian tribes have become one of the 5 biggest sources of campaign money in America. It's right up there with oil companies and pharmaceutical companies.
And in New York, they're number 3rd highest interest group. The Senecas alone were the 3rd highest interest group in the state
And
to
they've
spend
hired,
money.
the person who's probably in most trouble is the Democratic Speaker of the Assembly, Sheldon Silver.
Right.
He took
Explain.
a trip to Las Vegas that was comped to an extraordinary degree, where
He paid
got
$159 for a $1,500 room.
in Las Vegas, and paid for by Caesars Entertainment, Caesars Palace, and they are in the Indian gaming hunt in New York State. And the chief lobbyist for the Indian tribes here is Patricia Lynch, Shelley Silver's former chief of staff.
Now, doesn't the speaker, isn't he going to appear before the legislature to explain his behavior?
This week or next week.
Okay.
He's got to explain why he took this virtually free trip.
And what do you expect
by
to-
a company that has business pending before New York
And what do
State.
you expect to come out of our legislature when he talks before?
I don't know, but I think that the backstory here is this fight to the death between Silver and Pataki. If there's a little opening here where Silver did anything that's really
They're gonna get him.
wrong, Pataki
He's
will
gonna
go,
bury
will go
him.
for the kill.
Okay. And then
And
the,
Silver I think is giving
Well, he gave him the sword.
This opening, and there's 4 casinos now online here, and there's 4 or 5 that are trying to get licenses.
so we can expect a lot of money flowing through the system.
Look, even 4 years ago, Donald Trump
Well, okay, let's talk about- right.
was fined $250,000 for a stealth covert campaign here to stop casino gambling in New York, because that would hurt his casino in Atlantic City. Just like the Kashada paid Abramoff-Scanlan what looks like to me $31 million between them to stop smaller competing casinos in their geographical monopoly. Trump, at a lower level of money, which is pretty amazing,
Right.
Try to do the same thing in New York to stop competition.
And like the current case, the Trump case featured a well-known Republican operative and lobbyist, Roger Stone.
That's right.
So you've got this sort of this permanent elite that constantly is making withdrawals from the system.
Yes, it's the government is an ATM machine to these lobbyists.
Okay. Let's now...
And the real money here is also to be found in the owners of these casinos,
Absolutely.
the investors, the developers.
Oh, it's got to be
That's
worth...
like a license to print money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Why aren't the Democrats? Why isn't John Kerry? And this gets to a larger question about Kerry that you and I have talked about, and is the subject of your piece in today, Tuesday's New York Sun, how John Kerry is blowing it. First of all, why aren't the Dems making an issue, and why isn't Kerry screaming?
It is incomprehensible to me that Kerry has collapsed the last 8 weeks. He did not answer the Swift boat ads within 5 minutes the way he should have. He is not hitting back immediately when he's smeared.
You're a boxing guy. I mean, one of the foremost experts on boxing. I mean, it looked like he was doing rope-a-dope, but he didn't have Ali's ability to counterpunch.
Yes, exactly.
And also...
It's just a dope, not a rope-a-dope.
Yeah, there was no rope-a-dope. Also, I was explaining to my students about not learning from history. Santayana's quote, "Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it." This looks like the '88 Dukakis campaign.
Exactly. When
They don't
Kerry
react.
was lieutenant governor of
And when he was
Massachusetts.
Dukakis' lieutenant governor, he didn't learn what Clinton put into effect in '92, what the war room is, that you counterpunch in the same news cycle. You don't wait 2 weeks.
Which is what the Kennedys did.
Exactly. Okay. Go ahead.
When Jack and Robert Kennedy and Steve Smith punched when the other guy punched simultaneously.
Right. Right, and you punch back
don't-
with his sometimes straight overhand rights. You don't let him get away with it. What is wrong with the Kerry campaign? What
Well,
what
I
is it
asked the-
institutionally or personally?
Well, I asked a friend of mine who's working in the Kerry campaign, saying, what is it like there? And he said, this is like the New York City Board of Education
no.
15 years ago.
No.
No one will make a decision. They're all shell-shocked. Everyone passes the buck. And then he said to me, this is like the duel between Burr and Hamilton. We are Hamilton. We're shooting in the air. And Bush is Aaron Burr. He is aiming at
For
our
the
heart.
Unbelievable. Now, what can be done? I mean, is it shake-up time? Does Kerry somehow relegate Bob Shrum, who's been running the campaign? Have you
Yes,
characterized?
yes.
Okay.
Bob Shrum is a great, poetic, literate speechwriter, but he is not a knife fighter, which is what you need when you're going against Rove and Ralph Reed. They need a shake-up yesterday. They need a streamlined decision-making process. They need a coherent position on Iraq, on outsourcing jobs, on national health insurance.
Excuse me. I mean, the Republican convention tried to cast Kerry as a flip-flopper. Now, I don't know. I'm reading his positions on a lot of issues, and I don't know if he's a flip-flopper. Either he's very garbled in his thinking, or his thinking is so nuanced that it's too sophisticated for me to figure out. And I have a problem. If I ain't figuring it out, he's in trouble.
20 years in the Senate make you too nuanced and too polite and too much. My distinguished colleague, I beg to differ.
We've got 15 seconds. What has he got to do? What's the message?
He should bring in fresh blood. People. I know David Burke, who was a brilliant tactician, worked for Ted Kennedy, worked for you, Kerry. He's been trying to get into the campaign.
Right.
He can't get in. Carville and Wilson are pretty good. They should be running the campaign. They should be attacking every day. They should be defining the issues and get a coherent position on Iraq that at least dummies like me and you can understand.
Right, and also, I mean, where is mission accomplished? Where is, bring him on? Why not throw that back in his face? One thing that struck me was that why don't they just call Bush a flop-flopper and turn the flip-flop around and turn it against Bush, the fact that he has failed?
Amen.
Thank you.